I just found out that Twilight Struggle Red Sea Conflict in the Horn of Africa has a digital version, and I'm going to play it for you today here on Legendary Tactics. This is Twilight Struggle Red Sea Conflict in the Horn of Africa. There's a digital app which I got no heads up about, and I decided to give it a go just for the opportunity to play it more often. And the implementation looks very similar to the other application, the Playdek digital version of Twilight Struggle. It looks a little bit sharper. I like the color scheme. Things like the water of the Red Sea looks really nice. It's even flowing and moving around, so it's really great. We're going to take a look at the cards here, just scroll through them. Obviously, we have the Romanian autonomy card, the famine card, which is one that I'm considering for my headline. We've also got the separatists card, which is one of my favorite American events, actually. It's a great way to catch up on things. Sorry, that's a neutral event. Yemeni presidential assassinations, that is one to be careful of. Potential DEFCON suicide card there. The advance in the space race, so that's kind of exciting. U.S. aid, one of my favorite headlines in this game, because not only do you get an operations point, but the U.S. goes first, and so it feels very topsy-turvy. Then we've got this one to help out in Madagascar. And the Nasserism card there, or sorry, the other card's the Russian event. It doesn't help out in Madagascar, but paired with the I've got the two cards which basically counteract each other, so it could be useful. And it's good that I have the card to cancel U.S. event in hand, so I know I don't have to worry about that happening. The AI chooses F5Es delivered, and I guess that's an interesting headline. It's going to give it one realignment roll essentially at this stage. So I'm hopeful that the app actually ends up being a good challenge. Of course, rolled terribly here, and maybe that roll made sense. The AI that the game comes with, because this the hard copy comes with a solo mode. Is actually reasonably good. It uses the priority system that the solo system for Labyrinth used to some effect, and so I think it's a good it's a good system, and I'm hoping that they base the AI here on that, but I have no idea what the inner workings are. I decided to take my op and put it in the strategic sea lanes spot. Kenya is too vulnerable at this point to, well, really any spot is vulnerable to coups except for the strategic sea lanes, so that's why I went there. And I'm going to try the famine event in Somalia, and I got to pick another spot. I'm going to pick Djibouti because my goal is actually to do a coup in Somalia, and if I get lucky, the only way in to Africa is through Djibouti. So, and I managed to win and pull off a reasonable success. DEFCON is degraded with a flashpoint country, if you'll recall. It's a new mechanic. You draw a card to see if DEFCON is actually degraded. So it's not a guarantee, but let's say there's almost a 50-50 chance of it becoming degraded. My opponent takes some victory points. Again, probably too early to be doing that. I was a bit suspicious of these AIs to see whether they actually play decently. I'm still holding out hope. I'm not sure if it's doing that well, but I'm very happy with my hand. I feel like I've got a lot of decent choices, and I can always bury one of the Russian events with a in the space race situation, and then combine that with the Soyuz card, and we're in good shape. So here I'm going to actually try and coup and undo the work, and I rolled a 6. I have to say my rolling in this was pretty spectacular. So I rolled a 6. That gave me essentially reversed the effects of that card, perfectly. So now I'm in really good position in Africa. I'm ahead in the sea lanes. And Africa is kind of the focus of turn one, I think you'll find, and then it shifts to the Middle East in the second turn. So my opponent gives me that event, and that's a pleasant change from a lot of AIs where they don't give you the events on when they play your cards with impunity. So anyway, gave me Sudan. Now, retrospectively, as I'm watching this game again, my next move really should have been to go into Egypt. But I really kind of I fell in love with some of the cards that I had, and I wanted to work them in a certain way. And I think that was a bit of an oversight. So I think a sharp human player would have taken the opportunity to coup Sudan next turn. Instead, I'm doing the space race. And I don't know if that's the best move there, but anyway, we're going to see how this goes. And yeah, so as long as I'm not, as I spotted it actually as soon as that card had been played, and I realized, oh, whoopsie, I should have played into Egypt. But we're going to see what happens here. We've got Cyrus Vance for a realignment. Interesting. Not sure why a coup wouldn't work there, but that's fine. I've got a pretty strong position there because I've got Somalia and Ethiopia next door. So it's a bit of a low odds roll, actually. I'm not sure why that was the case. The AI thought that realigning there was so important. I'm going to try again and misses again. And I can't necessarily follow. Some of these moves might be brilliant if the die rolls were better. So now I fortunately dodged a bullet. I've still got some action rounds, 4 action rounds left here. So I am going to, even though I like the Separatists card because it can kind of reverse the effects of a major coup, basically getting you back into that game where by even a lot of operations points can be worth a lot in the right circumstance. But I'm just going to spend that, get into Egypt, and I have Africa pretty locked down here. This is a pretty good situation. So as far as what can be done, Djibouti is really the only spot to get in here, and so we're going to now, and again, I like the French connection, but I think it's a good card to reverse the situation in Djibouti. And now it's really locked down. Like, this is almost an irreversible situation. There's spots to get in, but man, wherever there's any influence flipped, he's going to lose to a realignment. So he's going to play into Djibouti because really that's the main opportunity there. And I've only got a couple action rounds left here, so I'm thinking about. I've only got 2 1-up cards, so it's not really the best in terms of the opportunity. I'm going to play some influence though, and see if I can maybe get into Kenya and really begin locking down the situation. Now, I'm a bit nervous about that, and I'm probably going to have to shore up Kenya because with the DEFCON dropping very soon, it's going to be a bit of a situation to deal with if Kenya is lost. So, and I guess I was living dangerously here, but I ended up doing the space race to even the score with the Soyuz, and Hero of the Crossing is played, and that one is to discard one USSR associated card, and that allows me to discard that card and pick up a fresh one. So that was kind of an interesting situation. I'm happy that event came out at the time, and now it's kind of a tough choice as to which card to draw back in. And I was thinking about there's various things that you want to take into consideration. What makes this challenging is that it is only 2 turns, and so you don't have a lot of opportunity to plan any sort of long-term overarching strategy. Sometimes you're just reacting, and I thought, well, you know what, let's take back this card here. That'll guarantee us to get to the 3rd space on the space race track. In retrospect, it was good in the sense that it was a card that is decent ops, and if it happens that I want to advance to get those 3 victory points from the space race track, as well as an additional card, it might get me out of a jam in the situation where I need to avoid playing a card gives me a shot at something better. We have Afghanistan invaded, nice 4 ops card. This one is essentially like the Red Scare for this one. I thought that might be really good, but I saw CENTCOM as well. I thought, that might be a great opportunity to protect Kenya. We still have Détente in hand. That was, we picked up Détente, and Carter Doctrine again, really interesting card effect. Expensive as 4 ops, but and there's some interesting follow-on effects to the famine marker. And then we have Eritrean Popular Liberation Front, which I can't benefit from, and T-62s and Kalashnikovs. That card's fine as long as you play it last. And this is kind of an interesting way of, it's almost like the UN intervention card from Twilight Struggle, except it's weaker in that you may miss out on your turn. You might get to use the operations points of your card, but you're not sure. So interestingly, Mr. Niet is played, and sure, it gets me out of Djibouti, but at what cost? Because DEFCON is now 2. It kind of neutralized my CENTCOM, I guess. It wasn't something that was, super powerful, I guess. But I did. Oh yeah, and I guess Mr. Niet did kick me out of Saudi Arabia as well. So things in the Middle East not looking particularly strong, but Kenya is very much locked down. And I am in the position to potentially go for an auto win here. If I can hang on to Somalia and Ethiopia. Those are going to be risky now to coup. I mean, Mr. Niet was, I guess, a great event if you're focusing on the Middle East, and maybe my opponent has the Middle East scoring card, but it also puts the game at risk in that the player that has Kenya and both flashpoints under control at the time of the African scoring card. It's not just Kenya. It's Ethiopia and Somalia, and controls more African countries. That's so it doesn't need to be Kenya. My apologies. But regardless, the African scoring card is still going to be, even without that auto loss option, is going to be a fairly high scoring region for my side. So just looking at the board situation. Now we're just going to wait for the AI to make their move. The other thing I want to focus on is the strategic sea lanes this turn. So stagflation hits, and a coup in Sudan is a success. So my thinking is, okay, well, I can try and coup back, but it's also impossible for this place to be reinforced. And so if I do a realignment, it's not quite a guaranteed roll, but it's +3 because I control all the neighbors. Or sorry, +2 because Sudan, the control of Sudan cancels that out. Cancels that out. So we got a pretty good odds here, and we managed to get the right roll, and there's no more influence in Sudan. And again, for me, Sudan is only really a pathway to Egypt. Otherwise, it's an extremely risky spot to be. So I'm quite happy to have no influence there. And the Derg is used for a coup in Madagascar, which fails. Fortunately, getting some luck with the rolls here. So looking to my next move here. The space race one is always tempting, especially as to have an additional card would potentially be handy, depending on the card. But we've got some really strong ops, and now it's just a matter of what's the best way to get into the Middle East. And for now, though, we'll lock down Kenya, and hopefully if we can maybe even put my opponent in a bind if the African scoring card is out there somewhere. And as in my opponent's hand, then we can put some pressure on that way. It's going to be very tough to reverse anything like that. Now, Diego Garcia is one of my favorite events for the U.S. and the AI played it. I'm like, and then missed the roll. So I was super happy about that. That was pretty great. So I don't know whether this is a case of the AI floundering a little bit because there's no obvious moves to break into Africa. But Madagascar, both realignment attempts were resisted, which I'm totally fine with. And I think the opportunity to draw that extra card might be a good one. I've got a lot of ops still hanging around, and even the T62's card is fine as long as you play it on your last go round. So I'm just looking to build up, break into Djibouti, and eventually to get into the Middle East. I probably I can't coup in anywhere in South Yemen either, unfortunately, because of the DEF CON. So I actually played into Sudan as a bit of a trap, because I thought if this AI really is focused on Sudan, then they might burn another turn trying to coup or realign there. So I put that out there as a trap. I may have tried it with a human player, but certainly with an AI. It sees this as a vulnerable spot, absolutely crushes the coup. But to be honest, that was not my goal. I know there's only limited number of rounds here, so my goal here was to essentially burn through that, burn that action round, have the AI do that. The Romanian autonomy card, always tempting to use, but I'm ahead in victory points, so it's really just better held on to as a victory point. So I'm going to take my free card and my 3 victory points, and I pick up Africa scoring. And so as long as nothing changes drastically here, this looks like it's going to be the win for me. So we'll see what the AI is cooking up as their response now, especially after a very successful coup in Sudan, and plays the events of 86, which gives me another victory point. Again, I'm totally fine with that. It also removes influence in the Middle East equal to the number of countries I control. I don't know why it gave me that one, unless it counts the SSL, I guess, as the control of the Middle East countries. But regardless, that's fine. It may be a glitch in the game, to be honest, but not that this game was in doubt. And so that leaves me basically with an easy move here after the influence is placed by the bot, which is essentially just to reinforce the Middle East. And so this card will end the game, and with a US victory. So anyway, I wanted to showcase the app. I think there may be still some glitches, but I think it plays really well. And if you like this game, it's a good way to give it a try. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you here next time on Legendary Tactics.